Shalom, everyone, and welcome to Torah Tuesday. Okay, this week's Parsha is Vayeshev, and it means "and he dwelt." And we're going to be in Genesis 37, 1 through 40, 23. As we go through the Parsha, write down any questions or comments as we go through. You should be looking for verses that you can apply to your daily life and help you transform into the likeness of Yeshua. As we get started here, I'd ask that you would silence your phones, and so that way we have no interruptions. And we're going to get ready to open the floor up to prayer or praise time, and Shamash Steve will handle the mic for us. So. And back on the live stream desk, we have Grayson, and the Shamash team are in the room. Please pay your respects to them as we go through prayer and praise, and then into the portion and the question and answer part of that. Give them respect as they're the authority in the room. So, okay, Ashley.
Shalom. I can have prayers for my mom. She's in the hospital. She's not doing so well with the cancer. For the last several days, she hasn't been able to swallow or drink or eat anything. And so she's in there. She had low blood count, and so they had to give her a blood transfusion. And they're thinking they're probably going to have to do another one in the middle of the night, and they put her on oxygen. So if you guys can just keep her in our prayers for that. And then if you guys can also keep us in undisclosed prayers for me and my mom together.
We'll do that for sure. Any other prayers or praises? We got Tommy coming up.
Hey, shalom.
Shalom.
So I promised my wife I'd get up here and make a prayer request. I don't usually do that, but we're having some. We just had some allergy tests run on one of our sons, and he's got a few more food allergies that we weren't aware of before, and we have already got quite a few. So it's going to make things a little bit more complicated as far as cooking and stuff like that. So not a huge deal. We can work around it, but still another challenge, and we've already got a few. So just keep that in prayer, and just for Selena's health in general as well, because she's been having a lot of issues with headaches and pain lately. So just keep her in prayer. Thanks.
We'll do for sure. Roberts and Joanne.
Okay, at this hour sometime, Rabbi Tom will be at the Life Care Center. They're transporting him right now, and he's going to be quarantined for 14 days, and I thought that'd be a little upsetting to him, but it wasn't. He was happy that he's going to have a room by himself now, so so just keep praying for his speedy recovery, and I guess in a couple of weeks we can go see him.
We'll do that for sure. Krista.
Hey, my uncle has been given 24 to 48 hours left to live, so just praying that it's peaceful transition.
Will do. We'll keep that in prayer for sure.
Hello.
Hello.
I have a praise that the Hanukkah edition for Parsha Pearls launched on Sunday. A lot of moving pieces with that, but keep the family that does the InDesign for me in prayer, because they ended up with a really bad bout of COVID, and he was working on it while he was very sick. And so please keep the Edershanks in your prayers, please. Thank you.
We will. Any other prayer or praise? Okay, live stream.
We have many unspokens, and from MTOI, Philippines Jet, prayer request. Please continue praying for our Mishpachah in Australia, and also please pray for us here at MTOI Philippines, that Abba guides us to find a place for our best shalom. Shalom family, we love you. From Shirley Akpelu, praise report, my sister has been healed by the King, hallelujah. From Rodney S., continuation to pray for my family to come in a covenant with the Father. From 71723, praise God for dispelling the anger and resentment from the divorce. From Razi R., requesting prayers, experiencing symptoms of vertigo. From Lulu Love, prayers for my friend Rebecca going through chemo. Praise to Yah for a good meeting with Zainab. From Vaskin, continued prayers for Rabbi and leadership. Prayers for my Marco Polo brothers and sisters. The Australians and all who want to immigrate to USA. Praise to Yah, He is good. From Shelly Bell Perez, prayers please for the pain and swelling around my track, and praise Yah that the pain is not too excruciating. From Oliver Hersey, prayer, work to increase, and 2 possible work opportunities. From Kay Carrick, praise Yahweh, King of the universe. My brother-in-law is coming home today from hospital, and my sister is very happy. Thank you for all the prayers. Praise Yahweh. From April Dykes, please pray that the infection in my foot and leg will be resolved. I'm in the hospital again. And from Carrie Ann Worthy, prayer request, prayers for my daddy and for a dear sister and family suffering a loss, and praying for all the needs of the body. And I believe that is all.
Thank you, Grayson. Okay. Any other, we've had a couple latecomers, any other prayer praises? No, we're good? Okay. We would also like to pray for those that have emailed or called through the week before the service as well. And if we could get a volunteer for prayer. Michael. Yeah, that's fine.
Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, we thank you for bringing us together this evening to hear your words. We pray that you give us an open heart and open mind, that we might receive them and that we might apply them to our life. And we ask that you lift all those up who we've prayed for tonight. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Michael. Okay, we're going to get ready for the Torah reading. We're going to need 8 readers. Again, we're going to start in Genesis 37:1 and go to 40:23. And as they come up, I'll get ready here. Okay, our first reader is Shannon. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may bless Shannon, who has come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family and bring blessing and prosperity on all the works of her hands. Amen. Okay, well, you're going to be in 37:1 through 17.
And Yaakov dwelt in the land of his father's sojournings in the land of Canaan. This is the genealogy of Yaakov, Yosef. Being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brothers, and the young man was with the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Yosef brought an evil report of them to his father. And Israel loved Yosef more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a long robe. But when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, that they hated him and were not able to speak peaceably to him. And Yosef dreamed a dream and told it to his brothers, so they hated him even more. And he said to them, "Please listen to this dream which I have dreamed. See, we were binding sheaves in the midst of the field, and see, my sheaf rose up and stood up, and see, your sheaf stood all around and bowed down to my sheaf." And his brothers said to him, "Shall you indeed reign over us? Shall you indeed rule over us?" So they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. And he dreamed still another dream, and related to his brothers, and said, "See, I have dreamed another dream, and see, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars bowed down to me." And he related it to his father and his brothers, and his father rebuked him and said to him, "What is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall we, your mother and I and your brothers, indeed come bound down to the earth before you?" And his brothers envied him, but his father guarded his word, the word. And the brothers went to feed their father's flock in Shechem. And Yisrael said to Yosef, "Are not your brothers feeding the flock in Shechem? Come, I send you to them." So he said to him, "Here I am." And he said to him, "Please go and see if it is well with your brothers and well with the sheep, and bring back word to me." So he sent him out of the valley of Hebron and went to Shechem. And a certain man found him, and see, he was wandering in the field. And the man asked him, saying, "What do you seek?" And he said, "I am seeking my brothers. Please inform me where they are feeding their sheep." And the man said, "They have left here, for I heard them say, 'Let us go towards Dothan.'" So Yosef went after his brothers and found them in Dothan.
Thank you, Shannon. Okay, Janet, our second reader. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may bless Janet, who has come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family and send blessing on prosperity on all the works of her hands. And okay, you're going to take us from 37:18 to the end of the chapter at 36.
And they saw him from a distance, and before he came near them, they plotted against him to kill him. And they said to each other, "See, this master of dreams is coming. Now then, come, and let us now kill him, and throw him into some pit, and shall say, 'Some wild beast has devoured him.' Let us then see what comes of his dreams." But Reuben heard and rescued him from their hands, and said, "Let us not strike his being." And Reuben said to them, "Shed no blood. Throw him into this pit which is in the wilderness, and do not lay a hand on him, in order to rescue him out of their hands and bring him back to his father." So it came to be, when Joseph had come to his brothers, that they stripped Joseph of his robe, the long robe which was on him. And they took him and threw him into a pit, and the pit was empty. There was no water in it. And they sat down to eat a meal. And they lifted their eyes and looked, and saw a company of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead, from their camels, bearing spices and balm and myrrh, going to take them down to Mitzrayim. And Yehudah said to his brothers, "What will we gain if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come, and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother, our flesh." And his brothers listened. And men, Midianite traders, passed by. So they pulled Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit, and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver. And they took Joseph to Mitzrayim. And Reuben returned to the pit, and see, Joseph was not in the pit, and he tore his garments. And he returned to his brothers and said, "The boy is gone, and I, where am I to go?" So they took Joseph's robe, slew a male goat, and dipped the robe in the blood, and sent the long robe, and brought it to their father, and said, "We have found this. Please look, is it the robe of your son or not?" And he recognized it and said, "It is my son's robe. An evil beast has devoured him. Joseph is torn to pieces." And Jacob tore his garments and put sackcloth on his waist, and mourned for his son many days. And all his sons and all his daughters arose to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. And he said, "Now let me go down into Sheol to my son in mourning." So his father wept for him. And the Midianites had sold him in Mitzrayim to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh and captain of the guard.
Amen. Thank you, Janet. Okay, Michael, our third reader. He who blessed our fathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob may bless Michael, who has come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of his hands. Amen. You're going to take us from Genesis 38, 1 through 14.
And at that time it came to be that Yehudah left his brothers and turned aside to a man, an Adullamite, whose name was Hira. And Yehudah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite, whose name was Shua. And he took her and went into her. So she conceived and bore a son, and he called his name Er. And she conceived again and bore a son, and she called his name Onan. And she conceived yet again and bore a son, and called his name Shelah. And he was at Keziv when she bore him. And Yehudah took a wife for Er, his firstborn, and her name was Tamar. But Er, Yehudah's firstborn, was evil in the eyes of Yahweh, and Yahweh took his life. And Yehudah said to Onan, "Go in to your brother's wife and marry her, and raise up an heir to your brother." And Onan knew that the offspring would not be his, and it came to be, when he went into his brother's wife, that he spilled on the ground, lest he should give an offspring to his brother. But what he did displeased Yahweh, so he took his life too. Then Yehudah said to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, "Remain a widow in your father's house until my son Shelah is grown." For he said, "Lest he also die as his brothers did." And Tamar went and dwelled in her father's house. And after a long time, the daughter of Shua, Yehudah's wife, died. And Yehudah was comforted and went up to his sheep shearers in Timnah, he and his friend Hira the Adullamite. And it was reported to Tamar, saying, "See, your father-in-law is going up to Timnah to shear his sheep." And she took off her widow's garments and covered herself in a veil and wrapped herself and sat at the entrance of Enayim, which was on the way to Timnah, for she saw that Shelah was grown, and she was not given to him as a wife.
Amen. Thank you, Michael. Okay, Ashley. He who blessed her fathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob may bless Ashley, who has come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family and bring blessing and prosperity in all the works of her hands. Amen. Okay, you're going to take us from Genesis 38, 15 through 30.
To 30? To 30. Thank you. And Yehudah saw her and reckoned her for a whore, for she had covered her face. And he turned aside to her by the way and said, "Please let me come in to you." For he did not know that she was his daughter-in-law. And she said, "What do you give me to come into me?" And he said, "Let me send you a young goat from the flock." And she said, "Do you give me a pledge until you send it?" So he said, "What pledge should I give you?" And she said, "Your seal and your cord and your staff that is in your hand." And he gave them to her. And he went into her, and she conceived by him. And she arose and went away and removed her veil and put on the garments of her widowhood. And Yehudah sent the young goat by the hand of his friend the Aldumite to receive his pledge from the woman's hand, but he did not find her. And he asked the men of that place, saying, "Where is the cult prostitute who was beside the way to Enamim?" And they said, "There was no cult prostitute in this place." And he returned to Yehudah and said, "I have not found her." And the men of the place also said, "There was no cult prostitute in this place." And Yehudah said, "Let her take them for herself, lest we become despised, for I sent you this young goat, and you have not found her." And it came to be about 3 new moons after that Yehudah was informed, saying, "Tamar, your daughter-in-law has whored, and see, she has conceived by whoring. And Yehuda said, bring her out and let her be burned. When she was brought out, she sent to her father-in-law, saying, by the man to whom these belong, I am pregnant. And she said, please examine whose these are, the seal and the cord and the staff. And Yehuda examined and said, she has been more righteous than I, because I did not give her to Shelah, my son, and he never knew her again. And it came to be at the time for giving birth that, see, twins were in her womb. And it came to be when she was giving birth that the one put out his hand, and the midwife took a scarlet thread and bound it on his hand, saying, this one came out first. And it came to be as he drew back out his hand that, see, his brother came out. And she said, how did you break though? This breach be upon you. So his name was called Perez. And afterwards his brother came out, who had the scarlet thread in his hand. So his name was called Zerah.
Thank you, Ashley. Tommy, for our fifth reader, actually. He who blessed our fathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Tommy, who has come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, you're going to take us from Genesis 39, 1 through 12.
And Yosef had been taken down to Mitzrayim, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, at Mitzrayim, brought him from the Ishmaelites who had taken him down there. And it came to be that Yahweh was with Yosef, and he became a prosperous man, and was in the house of his master the Mitzrayim. And his masters saw that Yahweh was with him, and that Yahweh made all he did to prosper in his hand. So Yosef found favor in his eyes, and served him, and he appointed him over his house, and gave into his hand all that he had. And it came to be, from the time that he appointed him over his house and all that he had, that Yahweh blessed the Mitzrayim's house for Yosef's sake. And the blessing of Yahweh was on all that he had in the house and in the field. And he left in Joseph's hand all that he had, and he did not know what he had except for the bread which he ate. And Joseph was handsome in form and handsome in appearance. And after these events it came to be that his master's wife lifted up her eyes to Joseph and said, lie with me. But he refused and said to his master's wife, look, my master does not know what is with me in this house, and he has given into my hand all that he has. No one is greater in this house than I, and he has not withheld whatever from me but you, because you are his wife. And how shall I do this great evil and sin against Elohim? And it came to be, as she spoke to Joseph day by day, that he did not listen to her, to lie with her, to be with her. And it came to be on a certain day, when Joseph went into the house to do his work, and none of the men of the house was inside, that she caught him by his garment, saying, lie with me. But he left his garment in her hand, and fled, and ran outside.
Amen. Thank you, Tommy. Brian. He who blessed our fathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may bless Brian, who has come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, Brian, you're going to take us from Genesis 39, 13 through 23.
Till when? 40, 23? 13 through 23. All through 23. And it came to be, when she saw he had left his garment in her hand and fled outside, that she called to the men of her house and spoke to them, saying, see, he has brought into us a Hebrew to mock us. He came into me to lie with me, and I cried out with a loud voice. And it came to be, when he heard that I lifted my voice and cried out, that he left his garment with me and fled and went outside. And she kept his garment with her until his master came home. And she spoke to him these same words, saying, The Hebrew servant whom you brought to us came into me to mock me. So it came to be, as I lifted my voice and cried out, that he left his garment with me and fled outside. And it came to be, when his master heard the words which his wife spoke to him, saying, Your servant did to me according to these words, that his displeasure burned. Then Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the sovereign's prisoners were confined. And he was there in the prison. But Yahweh was with Joseph and extended loving commitment to him. And he gave him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. And the prison warden gave into the hand of Joseph all the prisoners who were in the prison, and whatever was done there was his doing. The prison warden did not look into any point that was under Joseph's hand, because Yahweh was with him, and whatever he did, Yahweh made it prosper.
Amen. Thank you, Brian. Okay, Justin. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Justin, who has come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, you're going to take us from Genesis 40, verse 1 through 11.
And after these events it came to be that the cupbearer and the baker of the sovereign of Mitzrayim sinned against their master, the sovereign of Mitzrayim. And Pharaoh was wroth with his two officers, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker. So he put them in confinement in the house of the captain of the guard, in the prison, the place where Joseph was a prisoner. And the captain of the guard put Joseph in charge of them, and he served them, so they were in confinement for some time. Then the cupbearer and the baker of the sovereign of Mitzrayim, who were confined in the prison, dreamed a dream, both of them, each man's dream in one night, and each man's dream with its own interpretation. And Joseph came into them in the morning and looked at them and saw that they were sad. And he asked Pharaoh's officers who were with him in confinement of his master's house, saying, Why do you look so sad today? And they said to him, We each have dreamed a dream, and there is no one to interpret it. And Joseph said to them, Do not interpretations belong to Elohim? Relate them to me, please. So the chief cupbearer related his dream to Joseph and said to him, See, in my dream a vine was before me, and in the vine were 3 branches, and it was as though it budded. Its blossoms shot forth, and its clusters brought forth ripe grapes. And Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, so I took the grapes and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup and placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand. 12.
Oh, sorry, 11. No, you're correct. Sorry about that. Amen. Thank you, sir. Okay, Krista. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Krista, who has come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of her hands. Amen. Okay, you're going to take us from Genesis 40, verse 12 to 23.
And Joseph said to him, This is the interpretation of it. The 3 branches are 3 days. Yet within 3 days, Pharaoh is going to lift up your head and restore you to your place. And you shall put Pharaoh's cup in his hand, according to the former ruling, when you were his cupbearer. But remember me when it is well with you, and please show loving commitment to me, and mention me to Pharaoh, and get me out of this house. For truly I was stolen away from the land of the Hebrews, and also I have done naught that they should put me into the dungeon. And the chief baker saw that the interpretation was good, and he said to Joseph, I also was in my dream and saw 3 white baskets that were on my head, and in the uppermost basket all kinds of baked goods for Pharaoh. And the birds ate them out of the basket on my head. And Joseph answered and said, This is the interpretation of it. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Yet within 3 days, Pharaoh is going to lift off your head from you and hang you on a tree, and the birds shall eat your flesh from you. And on the 3rd day, Pharaoh's birthday, it came to be that he made a feast for all his servants. And he lifted up the head of the chief cupbearer and of the chief baker among his servants. And he restored the chief cupbearer to his post of cupbearer again, and he placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand. But he hanged the chief baker, as Joseph had interpreted to them, and the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph, but forgot him.
Amen. Thank you, Krista. Okay, that concludes our readings. And for the traditional blessings, Baruch atah Yahweh Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natu betukenu, Baruch atah Yahweh noten haTorah. Blessed are you, Yahweh our Elohim, King of the universe, who has given us the Torah of truth and has planted eternal life in our midst. Blessed are you, Yahweh, giver of the Torah. Amen. Okay, and now we have a special guest tonight.
I'm here to introduce the special guest. No, no, he was already here. All right. Well, I'm here to do the announcements, so let me go ahead and do that. Oh, thank you. Give me my mic stand back. This is going to take a second. There we go. All right, so I thought I would come in and do the announcements today, give me a chance to see everybody, and you're all looking fairly good. All right, it's good to see everyone. Great study so far. I hope you're getting ready with all your comments and questions. All the toughest ones, bring them right out, because Shane is ready. Okay, so I want to welcome our guests, and I know we have some guests here and guests online today, so I want to welcome our guests. All right. How many we got on there right now, Mr. Grayson? He wasn't ready.
137 computers.
137 computers. All right, fantastic. I'm noticing that as that number sometimes goes down, this audience here gets bigger. I wonder if there's a correlation. They moved from there to here. Okay, so there you go, in case you didn't piece that together. All right, so we do want to welcome our guests. We do ask those of you online to please act like guests. We are children of Abraham. We should exemplify the trait of hospitality, but also we should be exemplifying the traits of our Messiah. And as it says, if possible, live at peace with all men. If you don't like what we're doing here, that's okay. But just we ask that you would be peaceful about your disagreements. All right. So for those of you that are new that just found us, I want to just tell you a little bit about what we do here as far as what we provide to those of you that are not here. Okay, so we do stream twice a week. So every Tuesday, like tonight, we stream. We call that Torah Tuesday. Okay, and we do the weekly Torah portion, which is the breaking up of the first 5 books, Genesis to Deuteronomy, into a 1-year cycle. So each week we do about 5 or so chapters. We read them, we discuss them as we journey through our understanding of the foundation of all the things that we believe. Because all that foundation, the most important parts of it are in 2 places. The big foundational parts of the first 5 books, and then the foundational place in the 4 Gospels. Okay, so that's our foundations. And so you can't even really understand the 4 Gospels if you don't understand the 5 books. You really can't. You won't understand what the issues were. You won't understand what Yeshua was talking about. So you need to have the foundation. So every week, we go through the tradition of going through the weekly Torah portion cycle. Okay, so we start that at 6:30. So if you just found us, we started about half an hour ago. And man, when you do this, it goes faster. Well, usually I'm up here, it's about 7:30 by the time we get here. Okay, so we go for about 2 or 3 hours, whatever amount of time it takes. We read the Torah portion, and then we ask questions and make comments about it, so you should have taken some notes about that. We do this, like I said, every Tuesday, 6:30 Eastern Time. We also stream on Saturdays, okay? So we stream on Saturdays, and that's at 1:15 Eastern Time. That's our live Shabbat service. That service runs about 4 hours, so you should be ready for that. It's praise and prayer and instruction and all kinds of fantastic things. And so you're welcome to join us for that live. It's not like watching most live streams. Just like this one's a little different. There's a lot of interaction with you if you're on the live stream, where you can, submit prayer requests that'll get read over the microphone. You can interact during the Q&A after the teaching and ask questions. So we try to make it so that if you're not here, you still feel like you're part of this, okay? Because we want you to be part of this and recognize that not everybody has a place to fellowship on Shabbat, and at least not one that maybe is viable. Maybe there's places nearby that you'd rather not go. And so we provide you with this as an alternative, as an opportunity until Abba decides to provide you with a place physically there, or until you do like most of these people and decide to move here. All right. Not that that's required in any way. Okay. We also have a program for the children. I guess I could have done this when we were talking about Torah Tuesday. So this is the MTOI program. Okay. I know my wife mentioned it briefly during the prayer time. So the MTOI program is a fantastic program for the children with the same cycle of going through the 5 books that we do on Tuesdays. They have the same information going from Genesis to Deuteronomy at their level. Okay, that's the important part, is that we're doing this in a way for them to engage with the material in a way that makes sense to them because it's at their level. Okay, and it's enjoyable and we make it fun, and we do that through many, many ways. So this is a free program. I'll explain the things that we do with it in a second, but you can find it on ymtoi.org. ymtoi.org, which stands for Young Messianic Torah Observant Israel. And we have the program as a PDF that you can download. There's actually 2 of them. One for the younger crowd called the Gem Seekers, that's ages 5 through 8. And then one for the older children, which is ages 9 through about 19. We call that the Pearl Seekers. And those 2 programs are on the website, and you can download them. Like I said, again, there's no cost to the program. Enjoy it. In the program, you're going to find a lesson. We're going to find lesson questions, Hebrew word studies, memory verses, word searches, crossword puzzles, mazes, crafts, notebook pages, coloring pages, even a song and a snack, and all is going to be connected to that week's Torah portion. All right? Every bit of it. The memory verses, the word searches, the crossword puzzles, the snack, even the snack is going to be connected to the Torah portion, okay? So it's a lot of fun and really enjoyable. This is published on Sunday, so that you have it the whole week for that week's Torah portion. So what we go and do on Tuesday, the YMTOI program publishes on Sunday, okay? And I think my wife may have mentioned we have a special Hanukkah edition that published on Sunday, so that you can all enjoy that. So we're very excited about that special edition. Okay, so not only do you get the weeks during the year for this Parsha Pearls program, but you also get the special editions we put out before the holidays and holy days. And by holidays and holy days, I mean we have Hanukkah and Purim, which are holidays, and then we have the holy days, like Passover and trumpets and Shavuot and Sukkot and that kind of thing, okay? So we have special editions we put out for all of that. Now, it's fantastic. Enjoy it. Again, use it for your Sabbath school. Use it for your homeschooling in any way you want. And by the way, if you want to give us any feedback, and we certainly love to hear encouraging words about how it's made a difference in your children's lives, you can send an email to parshapearls@mtoi.org. Okay, parshapearls@mtoi.org. Okay? We also have on our website audio scripture readings. Okay, so if you like to hear the word read, our own Shira Wendling has read the word, and we recorded it and placed it on our website. It's fantastic. So everything from Genesis to Revelation. The first 5 books, which are the Torah portions, are read, broken up by Torah portion. So this week's Torah portion, Vayetze, you could have listened, Vayeshev, what we do today? Vayeshev, you could listen to that separately as the Torah portion, okay? All right. Again, that's on the MTOI website, under media, under audio scripture readings, and they're downloadable and they're free. Okay, next, we have our upcoming events. So December 4th, we're going to start with the zones. There we go. All right, so we want to provide as much as we can for those of you that are isolated, disconnected, disenfranchised, whatever word. You don't have a place to meet on a regular basis, and you really feel drawn to connect with us here. But yet, Shabbat where you are, it's not when it's Shabbat here. Or when it's Shabbat here, it's no longer Shabbat where you are. And so we've decided to do as much as we can to at least once a month meet with you where you are while it's still Shabbat where you are. Okay? Now, of course, Zone 1 is the people that live here. So we already have Shabbat every month, actually every week for the people here. Zone 1 are the people in the U.S. and Canada, Mexico, South America, Central America, the islands that would all be in the same time zone range. Okay? And the first Saturday of the month, we do a special Q&A session. So instead of the normal teaching time, it's a time for you to ask all your questions. So you save them up if it's something that's not urgent, because if it's urgent, you should contact us right away. But if it's something you can wait on, that you have an issue with or a question about, you can do that on the first Saturday of the month during our normal services during the teaching time. Okay, that's for the people that are here and or on live stream that live in Zone 1. That's right here on YouTube. Zone 2. Okay, Zone 2 is the second Saturday of the month. So Zone 1 was the first Saturday of the month. Zone 2 is the second Saturday of the month. This one is for the people living in like the UK, Europe, Africa, in that time zone range. And this group and the next one also in Zone 3 will be doing the meetings on Zoom. All right, we utilize Zoom. Okay, you don't have to you don't have to download the app for Zoom. If you take our link and click on it, it'll still just bring you into the meeting. So if you want a link to the Zoom meetings, just send an email to zoom@mtoi.org. zoom@mtoi.org. And we'll send you the link. It's an autoresponder, so you can send it anytime, day or night, and it'll just send you the link. Now, if you already have the link, you don't need to do this every week. It's the same link, okay? We don't make a new one every week. We've been using the same one. Now, this is the second Saturday of the month, and this is at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, okay? 10 a.m. Eastern Time, which means that it's 5-6 hours later in Zone 2, and that's when it's going to be still Shabbat where they are, but a little bit later in the afternoon, early to mid-afternoon. Okay. Then we have our Zone 3 meetings. That's the third Friday of the month. So it's first Saturday, Zone 1, second Saturday, Zone 2, third Friday, Zone 3. Why is it on Friday? Because Zone 3 is 12 to 17 hours ahead of us. So if we did it on Saturday at all, it would already be Sunday where they are. So we do it Friday night here, Eastern Time, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, which is going to be 10 a.m. to like 1 or 2 in the afternoon where they are, okay? So this is Australia, New Zealand, Japan, the Philippines, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, China. Okay, we have people in all those areas that come to these meetings. So they're very enjoyable. If you live in those areas, it gives you a chance to interact with me, which is fantastic. And I love to get to know you and answer your questions. For the rest of you, you can go to all the meetings. Doesn't matter where you live. The people who live in the zone are the ones I'm going to give the opportunity to ask the questions. All right? So if you're in Zone 3 and we're having a Zone 3 meeting, you get to ask the questions. If you're in Zone 1 and 2 and you want to come to the Zone 3 meeting, you're welcome to come, but you're not going to be the ones asking the question, but you get to hear the questions and hear the answers and get to interact and see, at least get to see everybody that decides to have their camera on. You get to meet people from all over, okay? So, and maybe one day you'll run into them at a feast and you'll know them already and they'll know you, okay? All right, so it's fantastic. Janet's laughing, but everybody already knows her. Okay. See what happens? You ask a lot of questions. All right. So you and Waffle, they already know. Okay. Now, all right, so the zone meetings are great. Please take advantage of them. On average, we get about 100 computers logged on for the meetings from all over the world. So it's fantastic. Again, it's a Zoom meeting. You send the email to zoom@mtoi.org to get the link. All right, we also have an email address for questions. It's called questions@mtoi.org. Wasn't that very clever of us? Okay, very innovative. So send your questions to questions@mtoi.org. Now, this is not for questions you need an answer to right now. This is not where you send the question in and we're going to answer it. This is for questions that we can ask during or bring up during the zone meetings. Or I may decide to make some separate videos where I put some, like frequently asked questions into videos. So we could just have a video just for that question. Because I know a lot of you like some of the in focuses and some of these shorter videos where it just targets one particular idea. Well, I'd like to make some short videos to answer certain questions that come up a lot, so you don't have to ask the question, what teaching, Rabbi, did you cover, blah, 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 and I can't necessarily remember where it is in that teaching. Or if I know the teaching's 27 parts, I don't know what part it was in. But we could do a little short video just to answer some questions. It might be really good. Okay, how would you like that? Would that be good? Underwhelming, okay. 4 people think it's a good idea. Okay, forget it, we're not going to do it. Some of you are eating and some of you are just asleep and I get it. It's been a long week already, and it's only Tuesday. We're just getting started. All right, now, so if you have questions, though, that you think would be really good for the zone meetings or for a video, and you also need the answer kind of quickly, put it here and also submit it to us the normal way. In other words, to admin, A-D-M-I-N, admin at MTOI.org, or call us at the phone number here, 423-250-3020. Okay? Get in touch with us or through our Facebook page, and we'll try to get your questions answered, all right? And so, but if you can, better for you to wait, if you're going to be in a zone meeting, to get your chance to raise your hand and ask the question right then and there if you could wait till the zone meeting, okay? Because that'll be more of a chance to make sure I address the question. I mean, I hate to say it, but I mean, I get at times incredibly busy, and it's hard to get emails and Facebook messages and everything all answered and responded to. So getting more directly in touch with us is a much easier way to do that. If you contact us, and Elder Billy, I know he's enjoying his vacation, but when he gets back, he'll be putting people on the schedule. I'm enjoying it too. My schedule is much more empty. And so, anyway, so questions at MTOI.org. So hopefully you understand what that's used for. Okay, so if you send an email there, it's just a suggestion box for me of questions to maybe address at some point. If you need an answer, you have to submit it another way. You can do this too, but you need to do it another way as well. All right, Thanksgiving is coming. All right, Thanksgiving is coming this Thursday. All right, so it's coming up here in 2 days. So very exciting. I think it's going to be about 100 of us here, so we're very excited about that. If you've not signed up, please talk to my wife and let her know that you're coming, and she'll help you understand what you should bring and how this is all going to work. We're going to be here for those of you that signed up. We're going to be here starting at about 1. So we'll have people here earlier getting set, probably as early as 11 or 12, but we will definitely be starting the official launching of our meal and gathering at 1 o'clock. Okay, that's the plan at the moment. All right, then we have coming up Hanukkah. Hanukkah, oh Hanukkah. All right, so Hanukkah is coming up on November the 29th through December 6th. Okay, the first candle will be November 28th after sundown. So that's going to be the celebrating of the Festival of Dedication, also known as the Festival of Lights. And we certainly can understand that when the temple was desecrated, there was no light. And then when they cleaned it to rededicate it, they brought light back into the temple. Great metaphor for us, because we were filled with darkness. Listen to the darkness and light teaching, right? We're filled with darkness, and then we had to release all that darkness and bring in the light. Okay, cleanse out the darkness and bring in the light. Okay, so we will be doing something for that, probably on our Erev Shabbat dinner and also on our next Rosh Chodesh, which I'll be getting to in the next slide. Okay, so last thing I want to say about Hanukkah. Hanukkah is not a gift-giving 8-day Christmas, okay? All right, so children, don't bother your parents, and parents, don't give your children gifts for this. It's not about this. This is a solemn remembrance and excitement about rededicating the temple. Okay, the gift-giving tradition is very, very old, about 60 years. It's really very new. It started in with the Jews in the States here in the 60s. So it's like barely 60 years old. So that means for all the other hundreds, if not actually a few thousand years, nobody ever gave gifts for Hanukkah. It wasn't something they did. It's a new thing. And it was only done to compete with Christmas by more secular thinking Jews who were not understanding the point. Okay? So let's not do that. All right. Erev Shabbat for the next month, which is December. Our Erev Shabbat dinner will be on December 3rd. So it's dinner together with the whole mishpacha, with the whole family. And so we'll also be doing something with the lighting of the candles that night, because it will have already started. So we'll do that on December 3rd. And then as well on December 4th, which is our next Rosh Chodesh, and our Shabbat service and lighting candles. So for the Erev Shabbat, I should have mentioned, so we're going to start here at 6:30 with our Erev Shabbat service. 6:30, and you're going to be bringing just the fellowship meal. We'll bring like we do on Shabbat. People just bring it for themselves. You have a thing you're going to do. She's not sure yet. Okay, she'll let you know by, I don't know, we're running out of time. You have to let us know by Shabbat. Ah, you're such a pleaser. She said, it depends on how many people say which way they like it. Okay, I'll give the vote that weighs more than the rest of them. Okay. All right, everybody bring your own food. Okay, there you go. So the people that wanted the other way go, oh. All right, I'll let Rebbetzin make up her mind by Saturday. And then we'll announce it on Saturday. Because quite frankly, I don't care. All right. So then on Saturday the 4th, okay, is our Rosh Chodesh for the month of Tevet. It's also Zone 1. All right? So that Saturday, following Shabbat service and our Oneg meal, after sundown, we're going to have a Rosh Chodesh service, and the Rosh Chodesh service is going to be at 7 o'clock. And that we're going to broadcast. Okay, we'll broadcast live the Rosh Chodesh service at 7 o'clock because the day 1 of Tevet will be Sunday. So Saturday night will be the beginning of that, and so we'll be doing our Rosh Chodesh service Saturday night. All right, then our next leadership meeting is on the 12th. Okay, yeah, get excited. Okay, and so I tell you about it not because you guys are attending it, but because I want you to pray for it. You know, you have a bunch of people out there who have dedicated time out of their lives to serve the Almighty, but mostly it's about because they want to be pleasing in His sight on how they serve you. And we want to work together to serve you as effectively as we can, so we have these meetings every month. All right, so please pray for the meetings. All right, then Purim is coming. All right. All right, so Purim. So this is the celebration that's taught to us in the book of Esther. All right. And so it's Thursday, March 17th. So we're going to have dinner at 6:30, and we're going to read the book of Esther. Okay? And so that's and we'll talk more about it as we get closer to March, but just so you can mark that down, we'll be doing that here. Okay? Then Passover is coming, Pesach 2022. All right. So Passover is on Friday night, April 15th, is the Passover meal. The holy days run from the 16th to the 22nd, so it's Saturday to Friday. But you see on the screen there, it says 15th to the 24th, because we're not going to go right from Friday and then break down and all of that when it's Shabbat already. I mean, because Friday's going to go right from Holy Day into Shabbat, a double blessing, back-to-back Shabbats. So we're going to stay through Saturday to Sunday to break everything down. So you can register by calling us here at 423-250-3020, or you can go ahead to the MTOI.org/Passover site, go to the MTOI Passover page, and there is a PDF there that you can download to fill out for your form. We like you to contact us here directly to register. If you want to fill out the form and mail it in, snail mail with a check or something, that's fine. There's also a button on the website for you to pay with a credit card, or if you want to do it that way. If you send in a check or money order, please mark on it that it's for Passover, okay? And so that we know that that's what we can connect it together. All right. If you call here and you register, we can take your payment over the phone, or you can choose to mail something in, that's fine. Just again, if you mark down what it's for, we'll account for it correctly, all right? I expect to have a schedule of activities up very soon. Actually, I think it's pretty much finished. I think I want to just go through it one more time with some of the staff members to make sure that everything on it, is not going to be something that I got sideways with, just so that I have it right. So I'm pretty sure it's good, and we'll be able to have that ready to go. Okay, that's going to be right here in Cleveland, Tennessee. For new people, we're going to be hosting it right here. Yeah. All right. And we're providing 11 meals for the whole week. So we're going to be providing 6 lunches, 4 dinners, and the Passover meal. Now, we're not providing them. In other words, you can register and sign up for them. But those are the only meals that we're going to actually be partaking in as a group, providing it, doing the cooking and everything here. All the rest of your meals, you'll have to go out and find places to get that. And don't forget to make sure you're not eating any bread while you're doing it, okay? Now, so I think that will cover it for that. We'll talk a lot more about Passover once the schedule comes out and some of the things that are important. But the most important thing is this, okay? We should be wanting to be a blessing. And one of the ways that you can be a blessing to this ministry is to sign up, if you're coming, to sign up now and not later, so that we know you're coming and we can start making plans for how many, okay? The sooner we get everybody signed up, the much easier it is for us to plan. Okay, so right now I know we had, last I looked, it was like 50-something, so I know we've had more people register since then, so it's probably closer to 100, but I expect we'll have closer to 400 when we get to actually April. But it's going to be helpful if you don't wait till the last minute. And if you look at the application form, the registration form on the website, you'll see there are actual deadlines that we want you registered by, so that we have time to buy enough food and get things ready, provide enough chairs in the tent and everything else that we need, okay? So please, if you know you're coming, go ahead and register. Get it done, get it out of the way. I have registered, okay, to set the right example. I registered, I filled out the form, I paid the fees, I did everything already for my family, all right? And I think most of the staff has gotten theirs in as well. So we're trying to set the right example. Again, if you're not coming, I'm not trying to make you feel bad. It's okay. Some people have situations, whatever. But it's for those of you that know you're coming. And by the way, I will get very aggravated with you when I know that you're here and I know that you're coming and I know that you haven't filled out your form. Now, I won't get aggravated with you this week, but come January, if you still haven't done it, I might start to get a little aggravated with you. There's no reason to put it off except, I don't know, there's just no reason. Okay? You don't have to pay for it all up front. So if, say, you don't think you have enough second tithe for it yet, that's fine. Still register. Put a little bit down that we ask you to put down and pay the rest later. That's fine. But at least we can start getting the right head count and make the right plans. All right, enough of that. So you guys are like, see, we liked it better. Shane doesn't scold us and kind of. He will someday. I'm training him. Because you guys felt that way about Elder Billy, too, and now he's giving it to you, too. Anyway, because you need that sometimes. I didn't say you'd like it sometimes, but you need it sometimes, okay? If you want to go out and just have everybody only speak nice and tickle your ears and let you do whatever you want, there's lots of places to go do that. Okay? But we're not playing that game here. Okay? Yeah, you can clap for that. Okay? We are not playing that game here. All right, so I hope you're ready with all your questions, because here comes Shane Bidwell to answer them.
Thank you, sir. Okay, let's give our Nasi and Rabbi a hand, please, for all that he does for us. Now we'll get reset here. We'll survive with it. Okay, for the Midrash, who do we have first? Questions, thoughts, comments? Looks like Shamash Steve.
Alrighty. 37:4. I guess I kind of had a question because it seemed like there was favoritism by the father toward the one, and his brothers didn't like it. So I just wanted to ask, how do we act when we see favoritism shown or love shown by others, and do we even equate it as automatic rejection upon ourselves when we see somebody else loved more than ourselves? So maybe we need to check how we're thinking when we might not even know the whole story or the relationship. So how do we want to do that to ourselves? But that's just kind of a thought I had on that.
Sure. Well, definitely favoritism is something that we should try to avoid. You know, we should be treating all of our children as equally as possible. Obviously, though, we know, life events happen, things happen, sickness, illnesses, maybe this or that might lead us in one direction or the other. But in this case, we really have to look at the fact that who Joseph is. And Joseph is the son of Rachel, right? And Rachel was Jacob's love. So, I think that's why we see this laying out here, right from the word go. And that's the situation with the robe and all the many things that he does for Joseph. And it really upsets his brothers. It causes a lot of jealousy, a lot of strife, contention. We're going to see as we go through here all the things that they put him through, trying to get even with him. And we should really, think about how we walk it out in our lives, that when we get jealous because somebody is exalted or somebody is lifted up or whatever the situation might be in our families or places of work, maybe somebody gets moved up in a position and we get jealous and upset. And, we really need to check our motives behind what we're doing and look at the reasons why we're getting jealous. Those are just a few thoughts on that.
Alrighty, and then in 37:5, it talked about dreams. And I know that some people allow the dreams to guide themselves. So what's the danger in doing so with that?
Well, dreams, again, we need to be careful the situation in our lives, what the dream is about, how we interpret it, and how we put it into practice in our lives. I mean, Abba, we know, does definitely, with his prophets through dreams and visions and such. And dreams, definitely, we need to pay attention to, but we don't want to start living by them or letting them rule our day-to-day actions. And definitely, keep it in prayer. I think we've talked about that in some of the past portions. Keep it in prayer, keep it in check, but definitely pay attention to what's going on. But sometimes those dreams are just our imagination or our thoughts or whatever's going on in our life. Sometimes it's just bad food. I mean, come on, So, just try not to put too much stock in it, and definitely don't start making large, big life decisions based on some of those dreams, unless you're absolutely sure it's from the Father.
Okay, and then next down to 37:18, it says they plotted against their own brother. So is that like envy taking control of themselves, their emotions? Because that would be pretty scary to find out that you would want to go out and plot against somebody that really hadn't done anything wrong.
Yeah, they were definitely plotting against him. They were envious. They, like we shared, they were jealous. They were angry. They wanted to kill him. We're going to see here, there was a lot of strife going on. And really it was just a lack of their, they were very insecure in their situation. I mean, normally the reason why we get jealous at people around us when they're elevated or they move up in a position or whatever the case may be is because we're jealous of that because of our insecurities inside of us. So we really need to look deep within ourselves and assess why that jealousy or that upset is there. Because, being lifted up or exalted into a position, each and every one of us are capable of that, So we need to look within ourselves and say, what can we do different if that's the position or that's the direction that we want to go in?
All right, and then finally in 37:31, it says that they fabricated evidence for their father to say that their one brother was killed. So to me, that would be pretty scary that you would go out and fabricate evidence against or to prove something, to prove your point. So that where would our heart be that we would have to do such a thing is very concerning.
Yeah. Well, we see back there that Reuben, convinced him not to kill him, but to throw him in a pit, and then we know he gets sold. And so there's a lot of things going on here. And then, they use a goat and they dip the robe in the blood to throw their father off of their trail, because they're trying to get out of this. At this point, Joseph is being sent off, and so they're trying to throw their dad off so that he doesn't blame it on them, because he's going to be really upset with them. It's also a type and a shadow. We see the blood and we think of the goat and so on and so forth. And we know Joseph and, Yeshua, the type and shadow. We see it all through this portion. We see it in verse 16. We see it again in 31. There's several places through here. That's part of what we're seeing there. We look at what Yeshua went through and when he was here on earth, and how his brothers, were coming against him, so to speak, which was Israel in general, especially the Sanhedrin and so on and so forth. And they were coming against him, and technically they were his brothers. And so again, we just see that type and shadow where we can see through Joseph, the walk that Yeshua will go through as well.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yes,
That's really
Janet.
good. And even Yeshua said that there is not a great prophet in their land, like they're not well known where they're coming from, but they have to kind of come out to be accepted in a way. I was thinking about 37, from the beginning, there was, even though, yes, Joseph was the beloved son or the preferred favorite son, and the brothers envied him because of that, but also he was doing some things to kind of add to it in a way, right? Like at the beginning, it says, for instance, on verse 2, it says that he brought an evil report of them to his fathers. And then it said that, the words that he spoke, like the dreams that he had, he related them to the brothers, and they hated him even more for the dream. So it wasn't just that he was favored by the father and loved but more, but also even the words that he was speaking, the things that he was sharing. I think maybe he was only 17, I guess. He was young and he didn't.
He was young. There could have been some arrogance there, but, obviously he was exalted, and with that, being exalted like that, there comes a level of responsibility too. And this evil report, the evil aspect of it, it's not a desired action, so evil, here it's not like, evil that probably we're thinking about. It just wasn't the desirable outcome of the situation to whoever is speaking here. So, this evil, don't think of it as evil like, what we often throw around as evil, but it wasn't a desired action. And Joseph brought an evil report of them to his father. So it wasn't desirable to the father. It definitely wasn't desirable to the brothers, right? So therefore it would be evil in their thoughts. So is the evil report, is that something that Joseph did, or was it the fact of what the brothers were doing? And the fact that the father, their father, Jacob didn't, he was hoping that they were doing correct and right? We all desire for our children to do what's right. And when somebody brings, let's take it here in the congregation, we have our children, whatever, they're running around, they're playing, they're doing this or that, and then another parent comes up to you and says, I see your child doing this or that, right? That's an evil report, in your eyes. So it's not something that you desire to hear. So therefore, it's an evil report. But it's not so much what they said or did that's evil. You see what I'm saying? Their intent was not to be evil, but to bring it to your attention so that you could address it or deal with it. So,
I guess when I read evil report, I thought of that other Parsha when the spies were sent into the land, and then they brought an evil report because they didn't say what was accurate. They kind of added to it, and so I don't know if it's the same term, but it was the same word, so that's what I thought it was.
Yeah, well, the desired outcome was not achieved in that situation either. So it's all in the eyes of who's desiring that report, whether it's evil or whether it's good or so on and so forth. So in each situation, that's correct. What you're saying is right. It was an evil report because they were trying to stir everybody else into not, moving forward and going into the land. They were trying to put fear in them. So it was an evil report in that sense, in a couple different ways. But.
All right, good. But it made me think about, we should also be mindful of how we present ourselves, right, before other people, and even the words that we speak, because that can bring some. Not that we're causing other people to stumble or anything, but that we need to be mindful about that as well.
Sure.
So that we don't come out arrogant or, any of that is not.
Yeah, and Joseph could have had some arrogance here. We really can't tell for sure or say beyond a shadow of a doubt. There's a good possibility. He was young, he had been exalted. There probably was a certain level of arrogance, in his step, but we see here that Joseph is going to send, or Jacob is going to send him out again, right, for another report. So obviously this was something that was common in Jacob was sending Joseph out to check on the other brothers, because we see it in two cases here.
He probably trusted him.
Yeah.
And you could, later on we're going to see how trustworthy he was. Right here he's young, he's starting, but later on we're going to see his decisions, and that definitely show that he was trustworthy, that Yahweh was with him, and he was prospering him.
Yeah, I have several different businesses that I ran through my life, and as an adult, it's very tough to hear some employees, something gets broke or happens or whatever, and everybody tries to bury it and not say anything about it. And then someone finally comes and tells me, hey, this or that happened or whatever, or somebody got hurt or whatever the case might be. And in that person's eyes, they consider him, whatever, a tattletale of this or that. See, that's an evil report. Another example of an evil report in their eyes. But in my eyes, it's like, let's be mature. Let's be adults here. If something happens, I need to know so that I can either, one, fix it or prevent it from happening again, So that's another example of an evil report. So.
And then I have a comment where about Joseph's father, when he was Jacob, he did listen to the dream, but then he rebuked him, right? This is in verse 10. And he rebuked him, and then he said, shall we, your mother and I, your brothers, indeed come to bow down to the earth before you? But then in verse 11 it says, and his brothers envied him, but his father guarded the word. So do you think that he kind of knew that this was a prophetic dream, and he was trying to keep those words like in himself because he was pondering on them, thinking that maybe later on that something will play out? Yeah, well, we've got two different dream situations here. The first one, had to do with the brothers and Joseph. And then the second one, we start seeing that now it's involving his parents and so on and so forth. And that's what kind of struck Jacob, funny. He was kind of like, what? Really? You expect us to do that? But at the same time, because of who Joseph was, what he was about, the life that he had led thus far, the dreams that he was having, obviously Jacob took note, and he kind of guarded that word. He protected that. He stored it in his memory bank, saying, there's something about this young man, and I think we're going to soon see what that is. So. And then I just have one more comment. At the end of the chapter, right, when Jacob tore his garment, he's thinking that, that Joseph is dead. And then it says in verse 35 that all his sons and his daughters arose to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. And he was in a very kind of sorrow, deep, very painful, I guess, emotional state. So I was thinking about I see sometimes I encounter people that they want to stay kind of in their suffering or in their problems or in whatever is going on with them. Not to say that obviously we all have problems, but you can choose to stay and just refuse to be comforted, refuse to be helped, refuse to, take on an advice that is probably good, maybe even counseling from rabbi, and just decide to stay where you are. And I think we always have that choice on whether to come out from that negative place or stay there too.
Yeah. Well, there's many things that go on in life, and it's really easy to get caught up in self-pity and sorrow for ourselves, and being upset. So I agree, we do need to be careful, and Rabbi definitely does a lot of counseling with that and tries to give people a direction and bring them back to reality rather than, walking in emotion but bring them back to reality and say, this is what you need to do in order to fix this and move on. So, yeah, we have to be very careful not to get caught in self-pity. Ashley.
This may be insignificant for a lot of people, but for my journey and my walk, I like to study genealogy a lot for my story and try to figure out in the family dynamic why things happen, where does it come from, did this happen in like my grandfather's generation or my great-grandfather's and all the way up the line. And it brought me to 37:3, and where Yaakov had loved Joseph more than all of his children, and he received the robe. To me, that's kind of like an more or less of an inheritance kind of a thing because it was a big deal. And I find it funny that he did that when he's the one that received the inheritance from his father. And I say that because he had to disappear for many, many years for Jacob and Yosef. And I just find it funny in those correlations and just with what's going on in my life, it's like, okay. So there's more to their rationale of why things have happened. And I just thought it was interesting.
Sure. No, it's interesting to see that Yosef, made this position. He was given this long robe. Rabbi spent a pretty lengthy discussion, last year during this portion, discussing that robe, how it wasn't, like this robe of many colors like we see. It could have had several colors in it, but it was more about the style and the design of the garment. It's long sleeved, probably all the way to the ankle. It was different types of, hanging fabrics. It was really, a very stylish jacket. It wasn't this coat of many colors like, the catchphrase kind of. But anyways, so this robe, yes, definitely set him apart, and it's interesting that Yosef, being as young as he is, but again, like we started out, it's the fact that he's Rachel's, firstborn that really makes the difference here. So, Justin.
Hello, Mr. Bidwell.
Hello, sir.
Well, I have a few questions and comments here. This chapter alone is amazing. So first off, I noticed maybe you can reflect on and share on the fact how Yaakov's name continues to go back and forth between Yaakov and Israel. What the significance of that is. Is it a difference between him walking in the spirit, the above and the below?
I think it's definitely a place in his journey, his mindset, and the things that are going on, because we see that even in the prophets and in the writings, that Abba uses different names for the same individual depending on the position. Look at the different names that Abba has, depending on what role he's playing in or what role he's working or functioning in, from El Shaddai or this or that. And I think it's the same way here. And Jacob is, more, that deceiver role or that, trickster role. When we see Israel, that's when he's walking in that role that Abba has desired for him and so on and so forth. So I think there's a correlation there.
Okay, all right, great. Well, secondly, I noticed, gosh, these brothers, look at what they just did with their sister just previously before, and now, they're doing this with their own brother. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, so my question would be, is there any, in 22 or 21 and 22 here, how the brother Reuben, he kind of seems like he doesn't want to be a part of this in a sense because he wants to come back and help his brother. Reuben's the firstborn. He's the oldest, correct? So,
yes.
So do you think that in that time, tradition and such forth would be that he was probably sitting also with Yaakov learning a lot of Torah and these certain things about things of how to treat your brother and such forth?
I don't, Reuben had just gone through an incident in the last Parsha, right? With, so we won't get into that, but we all know that story. So, Reuben, I don't think he was actually sitting with Jacob, gleaning all the mysteries of the universe and all the wealth of information that he had. But I think here, maybe because of that situation, there might be something to say for. He didn't want to go down that road again, so he was trying to lean more towards his father's will. But then we see he disappears. Where does he disappear to? So he gives this statement, and then there's nothing more. The brothers make decisions, and then he comes back on the scene. So I don't know. I think that might be giving him too much credit, in my opinion. But again, we don't have all the details, so we can't see beyond a shadow of a doubt. But,
True.
That's what we're leaning towards.
I guess I kind of thought maybe it might have been out of his own guilt for what he had just done in the last portion, possibly. maybe it really had convicted him and weighed on him what he had just done pretty much to his father and his, so on. And now his brothers are wanting him to do something else, and he just doesn't want to be a part of it. Maybe his conviction, I don't know.
Think about Reuben's position and put yourself in his shoes. If you knew that, and Reuben knew in this situation, that his name was going to be recorded and that, he would have handled this totally different. He could have put Joseph on his back and carried him back to dad, right? But he didn't. He said, nah, just throw him in the pit. Don't kill him. So I don't think we can give him that much credit. There was still some animosity there, definitely he had his issues with him as well. He just didn't want to see him die. He wanted to see him just go in a pit and go away.
Hi.
Hello.
I had a comment and then a question, but I'm going to start with the question first. In 35, it says that he said, and all his sons and his daughters arose to comfort him, and he refused to be comforted, and he said, now let me go down into Sheol to my son in mourning. So his father wept for him. What is that? I remember reading something like that in the Psalms, but what does that mean that he went down into Sheol?
Well, it was just the mental state that he was in and the emotional state that he was in. It wasn't like a physical that he went down into Sheol. He was down, he was upset, he was going to stay in a state of mourning. He didn't want anybody to lift him up or to try to help him out of that. There was some self-pity going on there. For sure, and I mean, he just lost his son, and not to mention, his favorite son, obviously, we can see from the story, but so we can understand why he would be feeling some of these things, but again, he was not accepting any help. He just wanted to stay in the state that he was in.
So like a depressive?
Yes, definitely depressive state. Yeah. Oh, yeah, he tore his clothes, tore his garments, put sackcloth on his waist and mourned his son many days. Now, how many are many days? We don't know for sure, but it was longer than normal, and then people would come to him and were trying to lift him up, and he wanted nothing to do with it.
And then a comment on Reuben. I thought it was interesting how he tried to almost save Joseph by saying like, hey, just throw him in the pit, and instead of, saying, hey, let's not do this. First, him being the eldest, I thought that they would have more of a respect for him. So in my head, I'm like, okay, if I'm the oldest, I'm gonna be like, hey, this is the youngest, we're not doing this or something like that. And then I also found it interesting how after he tried to save him, he said, first I wanted to see what 30 meant, because in my brain, I'm not sure if I'm getting it. And he said, and he returned to his brothers and said, the boy is gone, and where am I to go? I was trying to read through to understand that.
Which verse is that? Let me go through it.
30.
30.
Yeah.
And he returned to his brothers and said, the boy is gone, and where am I to go? Because he knew his butt was in a sling. He was about to get in major trouble. The favored son just disappeared, and it's like, what am I going to tell him? How am I going to get out of this one? So,
Okay, so I thought that one, along with that verse, how he almost saved him, I would almost feel in his position, like finding that Joseph was gone, and then coming back, I would have been like, hey, Dad, they threw him, because it seemed like he wasn't a part of it. So, at one point in the scripture, it seemed like he was, not present during it when he went back to find him.
Right.
So, yeah.
And that's what I was talking about earlier. And now Reuben, we can give him, some credit in one sense. He didn't want to see it go to a physical violent act, where they were going to lay hands on him and hurt him and kill him ultimately. So he wanted them, he said, hey, instead, let's throw him in this pit. Now, nobody knew that, that he was going to end up getting sold and taken off. And, that wasn't the idea. But when they looked up and they see, that the Ishmaelites were coming, and they were like, uh-oh, what do we do now? So, in Reuben's defense, I was kind of hard on him, but at the same time, he was trying to protect him. He thought he'd be in the pit, maybe leaving there a day or 2 or 3, and, hey, we pull him out, and, all will be well, but maybe he'll learn a lesson. And, excuse me. And if he did have some of that arrogance that we were talking about earlier because of his age and just a little lack of maturity, they were going to, try to teach him a thing or two. So Reuben was trying to help. He never expected him to get sold off. They didn't know that was going to happen until he went into the pit, and then it was too late. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, let's go to live stream for a minute.
From Rocky, Genesis 37, verse 4, they'd hated him and could not speak peaceably to him. Does this connect to John 15, verses 18 through 20?
John 15. Of course, you're going to make me look for it, Rocky. There's definitely some similarities there, but and we know with Yosef, there's a lot of connections to Yeshua and his situation. So, what was the verse in Genesis again? One more time.
Verse 4.
4. Okay. There definitely is a slight connection there because, again, they hated Yeshua. Why? He said that he and his father were one. He made a lot of different statements, and they got upset with him, wanted to stone him, and hated him. Again, here in verse 4, but when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and were not able to speak peaceably to him. So definitely there's a similarity there, a type and a shadow. Not a direct connection, but definitely a picture, a foreshadow.
And then offer 37 is a comment from Just D on verse 13. Yosef is a lot like his grandfather, Abraham. Yosef went out without hesitation, Hineni, to find his brothers.
Yes, Hineni, here I am. Okay.
And that is all for chapter 37.
Chapter 37. Remind me to go to live stream quicker. I feel like I ask too many questions in here and don't give them a chance. So anyways, any other questions on 37 here? Good? Okay, let's go on to 38. Janet, do you want to wake up Shamash Steve?
No, I just have a question on 38, which is verse 7 and 10, right? The two, first it happened to the firstborn, right, heir, that he was evil in the eyes of Yahweh, and Yahweh took his life. And then 10, Onan was the second son, and what he did is he went into the brother's wife, and he spilled on the ground lest he should give an offspring to his brother. And what he did displeased Yahweh, so he took his life too. And so my question is, how do we apply it into our life? Is that something, can we look at two different deaths, like literal deaths, or death like cut off, from the king? Can you expand a little bit on that?
Sure. Well, we're looking at, first of all, we're looking at the lineage of Yeshua here as well. And we're looking at the seed of life, which is pretty important, and the fact of what they were told to do, and then they go against that completely. Their selfishness, their attitude, it was just terrible, for what they did and the reasons why they were doing it. So I think it had more to do with their motive, and the way they put that into effect, their intent, than anything else. So does that help? Yeah, we definitely got to, weigh our motives and look at our actions that we take in order for something to take place. So we should be taking that before the Father in everything that we do. And, in this case, they were told specifically to do something, and they knew that it was right. And we can see that it had to do with land inheritance. I mean, a couple things we should take from that, specifically this seed of life and it being spilled on the ground had to do with land inheritance. And we don't have that situation today because we're not in the land, but also, something else that we can see here too is, Torah existed specifically. We can see that from Deuteronomy and some of the other writings. Deuteronomy 25:5, I believe it is, specifically pertaining to this verse. So. Yep.
In my defense, it's hard to look at such greatness, so I had to look down.
Now we're going to get him for lying, too.
What I miss?
Oh, nothing. Okay, Ashley.
What did I get for looking down? Okay. Bear with me, please. I am a little lost. I'm probably either not paying attention or stupid. With 38, 37 is Joseph, 38 is Yehuda. Where does Yehuda guy come in from?
How's it just come in all of a sudden, you're saying? Because the story jumps. Or it seems to jump, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I'm not understanding, I don't know, it's just, it's confusing for me because I have poor comprehension skills, and so, in ADD, so when I go from Joseph to Yehuda, I don't understand who Yehuda is in connection with Joseph.
Well, Yehuda is still one of the brothers, Judah. So, it's the fourth in line from Leah. So, Judah, it jumps to Judah here, one, because Judah, well, let's read here in 26. And Yehuda said to his brothers.
Verse 26?
Yes, and 37.
Okay.
And Judah said to his brothers, "What would we gain if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother, our flesh." And his brothers listened. So again, Yehuda was instrumental in the sale, the transaction of Joseph and where he went. Now we're going to see just down here a few verses later, right? We see Jacob is in mourning. I mean, he's accepting no help or anything else. He's just going to stay in his self-pity. He's very depressed, and he says, he's just going to go down to Sheol, to my son in mourning. So his father wept for him. So Yehuda has seen, he was instrumental in the sale of his brother. Now we see his father in severe mourning and going through a terrible time. And then all of a sudden we see Yehuda just kind of take off in a different direction. Right?
Okay, so it was kind of like a sidebar.
He just kind of splits the scene, yeah. And at that time it came to be in verse 1 that Yehuda left his brothers and turned aside to a man, an Adulamite, whose name was Hira. I think, Yehuda here there was too much heat, too much going on, too much emotion because of what had happened. He was instrumental, in what happened with Joseph, and he's seeing his father suffer. He's probably reaping some of the punishment from that, and so he's just basically turning from that, and so the story seems to jump, but really it just has to do with the timing of what's going on. And now all of a sudden Yehuda is going to go in a slightly different direction for a while because he can't handle what's going on. That's my thoughts and opinions on it, or opinion. It seems to track in that direction. So
okay, that is really confusing when it does that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Let's go to live stream right quick and catch a couple. Grayson?
Question from Lazarus. Was it common knowledge for Yaakov's sons not to be associated with the Canaanite women?
It was common knowledge, but we see a lot of problems with that. in the last few Parshas, and the problem will continue. It seems like anytime something is going on, and the sons or the descendants are upset with the father or the family, then they always turn to the Canaanite women. I don't know, it seems like they're trying to get a little revenge or something. But yeah, so they were definitely turning to that, and I think it was because of the upset in the situation.
Verse 24, the punishment for Tamar's whoring was going to be burning. In Leviticus, that's the punishment for a priest's daughter, is Yehuda, a Melchizedekian priest.
It is thought to be, definitely a picture of that. So yes, I mean, I'm not going to disagree with that. We don't have any exact proof of that, but we can see that her punishment definitely was in line with what Torah says for a priest, yes.
From Vaskin, would Yehuda have to end up marrying Tamar or paying a bride price to her father?
What verse specifically, and can you repeat that, please?
There wasn't a specific verse,
Okay.
unfortunately, but it's referring to Yehuda having to end up marrying Tamar or paying a bride price to her father. I believe in regards to him and her.
Yeah, sleeping with her. He thought that she was a cult prostitute or something to that effect because she was wearing a veil. No, there is no marriage there, and there is no bride price, no.
From Lazarus, I've read in some rabbinical commentaries that Anan wasted seed, and that is why Elohim took his life. Is that what is going on in chapter 38, verse 9?
It had more than just, the seed was just a result of the attitude that was inside of them. It was, obviously their intent, their motive and intent was incorrect. They were being disobedient and somewhat spiteful there. So I think it had more to do with that than the seed itself. Because the seed was about the inheritance of the land, and we don't have that situation here. So if Rabbi wants to elaborate any further on that, then he can.
That is all for chapter 38.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on, yep, we got one right here.
Okay, I don't know if it was answered already about her sleeping with him, but I was trying to see if him going to sleep with a prostitute was seen as a bad or a good thing. Because in my head, I was just like, when he was like, okay, bring her out to be burned, I was like, man, you just slept with somebody and you're coming and saying that she needs to be burned. So I was just like, what's the whole thing with that?
Well, see, originally she was supposed to be right with and then ended up getting killed. Back up in verse 3, ended up dying. Yahweh took his life, and then Onan was next in line, and Onan was supposed to take care of that, be with Tamar, and basically have a child for his brother and then Onan ended up dying because he basically rejected that and emitted on the ground. And then we go to Shelah, and Shelah was next in line, but he was young, and so Judah said, basically, wait until he grows up, lest the same thing happen to him and he die. So Judah set the son aside. Tamar waited, but then Judah never brought Shelah once he was of age to Tamar. So when Tamar found out that her father-in-law was coming, then she took matters into her own hands, and that's how this occurred. So, and why she did what she did.
And is he at fault, though?
Oh, he is at fault. We're going to see that over here. Let's see. In verse 26, and Yehuda examined and said, "She has been more righteous than I, because I did not give her to Shelah my son," and he never knew her again. So again, he owned the problem. He owned his situation, his failure in the situation. Because once she became pregnant, then she was, he left his signet ring, his cord, and his staff, which was kind of his identity, his way of purchase. It was an identifier. Those three components would be an identifier. And so then whenever it come up that, she was pregnant, then he said, let her be burned. And she sent them to him saying, well, this is the man, that I became pregnant with, and he knew they were his own. So again, he admitted his guilt here, and the fact that Tamar was more righteous than he.
I thought that verse was referring to, because when I read it, I was like, okay, that answers my question right there. But then I was like, I thought he was just saying because I did not give her, like that was his fault instead of sleeping with her. I thought that's what he was referring to.
Right. Well, when she was brought out, she sent her father-in-law, saying, "By the man to whom these belong, I am pregnant." And she said, "Please examine whose these are, the seal, the cord, and the staff." And Yehuda examined and said, "She has been more righteous than I," because they were his.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Yeah, more questions in 38? Anything else in 38? Anything? Live stream, Grayson? 38, you're good? Okay. Let's go on to 39 then.
Okay, 39:3. It says, his master saw that Yahweh or Abba was with him and blessed him. So I guess to me it would see, what in our lives do people see by our actions or how we talk or treat each other, that they can see that Abba is with us? Because everybody could say things, but then in your actions, if they don't follow up your words, then you're saying one thing and presenting another.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. When we're out in public, the way we work, the way we function with people, friends, even when we're walking through a store, you should, within a matter of a few seconds, be able to pick an individual out when they're walking with Yahweh, according to, not according to the world, but according to his ways. So I agree, we should be able to pick those out of a crowd of people. So we need to assess what we're doing in our actions, right? And really take that into account, that can others tell that we are, children of Yahweh, or do they just think we're part of the world? And, there should be something different, uniquely different about us.
So that extensive, we shouldn't be exclusive, like only certain people are good enough to be with us and push others out. We should be all evenly treating everybody the same.
Yeah, we shouldn't be exclusive, but we still, when others come into the room, they should notice there's something different about that guy Steve. He's just not like everybody else. And I'm not talking about in here per se, but if you're at Walmart, if you're at a restaurant, whatever, with a little bit of observation, you should be able to see that there's something different about these people. So.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Yahweh was with Joseph. There's so many verses that says that. But also I like when it says on verse 5 that the blessing of Yahweh was, where is that? The blessing of Yahweh was with him. Is it 5? Yeah, the blessing of Yahweh was with him. And it says, at the end it says, and that it was on all that he had in the house and in the field. So basically it's almost like I just picture Joseph going and he's blessed. And wherever he's going, everybody else who is around him is being blessed too. Like he's overflowing with blessing, and everybody else is getting that blessing as well. And I was thinking about Rabbi. I don't know why, but I thought about Rabbi because we are blessed by him because he's righteous, right?
Yes, amen.
And we also
Let's
are
clap
blessed.
for that, okay? Let's clap for that. Come on, everybody's very, very quiet and subdued tonight. Come on, a little bit of life. Yeah. Yeah, he who is given little and due will be given much, right? Or given more. So, that's what we see here with Joseph. Even when, he ends up going to prison here, you can see that he's blessed again, so on and so forth. So, yeah, everything that he touches, Pharaoh ended up noticing that. Potiphar noticed that everywhere he went. He was given control over the people and the situation. Even in prison, he became a leader almost instantly. Yeah, so, yep.
And I also like how he was righteous regardless of who was around him, right? Because in the instance with the wife of was it the wife of Potiphar?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it?
Yes.
When he 8, 9, and 10, right? That he not only was righteous in public, but also in private, because that was just an encounter between the two of them. And she keeps insisting, right? Lie with me, lie with me. And at the end, he decided to just run from her, because he kept resisting, and at the end, he just ran. But it's the way he tells her, the way he replies to her and says, no one is greater in this house than I, and he has not withheld, my master has not withheld whatever from me, but you. And then he says, because you are his wife, and how shall I do this great evil and sin against Elohim? It's just the way he's righteous in action and in words. He's following, he's being consistent with what he does. And that's, even though he was put in prison because of the lie and the false, whatever you call it, that evil speech, right? Yeah. He was put in prison, but even then, Yahweh was with him and prospered him and made a way for him and favored him. And that's just beautiful, and that's exactly what he says at the end to his brothers, right? You meant that for evil, but Yahweh, he prospered me, and he used this for good, for his good.
Yes, he did, definitely. Mm-hmm. We see that, this was just him and her, and like you say, how shall I do this great evil and sin against Elohim? Everywhere he went, everything that he did, he was thinking about Elohim and how he was representing the Father, and so we should be thinking about those things too, how we're representing the Father. We should be thinking about, as we go out too, how we're representing MTOI and Beth Shalom, because our actions and our attitudes and everything else, we're representing, Rabbi Steve and what he's done and spent, a large part of his life working on. So, and we're representing him, and we're representing the Father too, as he represents the Father. So we need to keep that in check and make sure that as we go out, we're dealing with the public, or we're dealing with individuals, or in our work, or whatever the case may be, that we're representing appropriately.
Right. So. Right. And also that even if we're accused, like he was accused, he was attacked with no... there was no right for her to do that, but she was just trying to, she was pissed because he didn't want to, he didn't give in with her, that he still didn't become bitter, he didn't lose any faith or emunah, he just continued to be righteous wherever he was, and he shined, and he prospered wherever he was because he had that trust in him.
Yeah, you don't see him whining while he's in prison and being, held. Well, when he sold to Potiphar, he's not whining. When he goes to prison, he's not whining and complaining. But, prior to this, we see the brothers, again, like we started out in 37, that the brothers were complaining about everything. They wanted to be exalted. They didn't want this young Joseph to, steal the prize, so to speak, and to be exalted that way. But even when he gets into prison and, he's still leading, the charge even from prison, even from these, when he was sold to Potiphar and then went to prison, he's leading the charge, and he's still not complaining and murmuring and doing the things that his brothers were doing. So, yeah. Yes. Okay, Shannon?
This is just another comment about Yosef, and I agree how I always loved reading his story because like his attitude, it was like he had the right attitude in his situations. And this reminds me of how we're put in places where we don't want to be, and we have to do things that we really don't want to do. We try to resist. Instead of being the present and dealing, this is reality, this is what we have to work with. Let's do this with the right attitude, and also have trust in Yahweh, because He's going to bless us if we continue to bless Him and guard His commands. And it's another good reminder.
Yes, definitely. So yeah, how many times do you hear, someone's looking for a job or wanting to move or going to buy something, a large item in their life, and they pray about it and they pray about it. They accept this job, they take this job, and then 6 months later, everything's ugly, everything's evil, the place is terrible, but it was just a blessing not a few months before, but now all of a sudden it's ugly, terrible, miserable, and they've just got to get out of there. So you have to ask yourself, where's the real problem? Was it a blessing, or were you just, kind of speaking sideways, or has your attitude, it's your attitude that's gotten in the way of the situation and turned the whole, situation sour. So, yeah, I appreciate that, Shannon. Thank you. Tony?
Verse 6, what's the difference between being handsome in form and handsome in appearance?
I would have to say, what verse was that again? Sorry. Verse 6? Handsome in form and handsome in appearance. So it's the things that he did, the way he acted, the way he took care of himself, the way he presented himself, and also in his appearance, the way he dressed, the way he, cleanliness, so on and so forth. He was probably an extremely handsome man, I'm sure, because Potiphar's wife was definitely after him. So I'm sure he was a very handsome man as well. So, any other questions in 39 live stream?
From Evangeline Agalasso, verse 2, and it came to be that Yahweh was with Joseph, and he became a prosperous man. Can you elaborate on Joseph being a prosperous man? Thank you.
A prosperous man. Well, everything that Joseph seemed to touch, again, when your motive and intent is, when you're working for him and you're pursuing him first, everything else in your life, for the most part, seems to start leveling out and getting pretty smooth. The closer you draw to him, the more prosperous, and the more blessings, he'll bestow upon you. So it's a work in progress. Sometimes we get caught in a moment where, we think we're walking right, we prayed about this, everything was good, but there's still a few things inside of us that we're hanging on to. Some of that self-sovereignty that Rabbi talks about. And it's not until we release that self-sovereignty that we can see the real blessing and the prosperity in it. And this is what we're seeing here with Joseph. Joseph, again, as we shared, was not about him no matter what the situation was. He was sold. He didn't murmur and complain. He was thrown in prison. He didn't murmur and complain. He could have wallowed in self-pity and all kinds of stuff and complained and blamed his brothers and just, been very negative in the situation. But instead, he made the best of all these situations, knowing that the Father was going to end up getting him out of that situation. So.
And then a comment from Chris. It was good not only that Joseph didn't immediately fall into sin with Potiphar's wife, but that he stayed in obedience over significant time. That test lasted a while.
Yes, amen. Definitely lasted a while. I forget how many years, and I did not look that up. But it's a time here. It's quite a spell. That he's in this situation, and again he stayed strong, he stayed focused, and did what he needed to do. He did what he knew was right by the Father. And he even witnessed to that in verse 9. How shall I do this great evil and sin against Elohim? So, any other questions?
That is it for chapter 39.
That's it. Okay, any other in 39? Okay, let's move on to 40.
Okay, I have just one kind of a observation, maybe a comment, but it says he put Joseph in charge. This is when he went to prison, but the other two that went to prison with him, it says that he served them. So I found it interesting that being put in charge isn't just giving instructions and orders, but also that you would be to serve those you're in charge of.
Yes, definitely. To be in leadership is definitely to serve first and foremost. Because otherwise, how can you lead? You have to set the example. You have to be there to serve, and we can see that through our leadership here. I mean, Rabbi Steve and Elder Billy and Rebbitzin, and both Rebbitzins, and Rabbi Tom, we see that servant attitude. I mean, the things that they go through daily and the hours that Rabbi puts in, and just the thought and the worry and the concern for you guys, and just how, I know he says he doesn't worry, but he puts a lot of thought and deep thought into how can he serve better, how can he take care of us better here, what can he do to make us healthier as a body, serving the body. So, amen.
Yeah, we're very blessed with having Rabbi with us. So chapter 40, at the beginning it says that both the cupbearer and the baker sin against their master, and that's why the sovereign was rough with them and put them in prison. And I don't know why, but for some reason when they were when I was reading this chapter, and there's the two dreams, right, that each of them dream, and Joseph is the one who's giving the interpretation. It's almost like, in a way, I started thinking about Yeshua and how he will be given the right ruling according to whatever we did. And one of them was cut off, dead, and the other one was restored into the position. Is that a good way to look at it? I don't know.
Definitely. We can see that Joseph in his walk, he was cut off and then restored. We see with the cupbearer and the chief baker, they were definitely cut off, and then one of them was restored, but the other one was not. So, yeah, definitely we can see that cut off and restoration, which is just that, it's the walk and journey of us, dying and growing and dying and growing as, we continue. Even a tree or a plant or anything else, you see, some growth and then a little bit of death and some growth and death. And look at the fig tree. The fig tree during certain times of the year looks absolutely dead and lifeless, and then it comes back from nothing. So we see that living and then, that growing and then death, and that whole cycle of life. Yeah. So, yep, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say how Torah is what is feeding us, right? It's the vine that is feeding us. And how important it is to keep coming to Torah study and to really receive that life from Him, but also in our own time. And in Shabbat, it's almost like it's reviving us, it's giving us, bringing us to life and helping us to really get rid of or put to death the things that are not of Him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We look at the cycle of going through, the Parshas here, and we go through them year upon year upon year, and every year we take a little bit more out of it. And also sometimes it kind of stings, it hurts, which would be a picture of death when we realize there's something that we missed or something that we need to fix in our life, When we first come into this, we're excited, we're full of life, and then all of a sudden we realize, oh my goodness, how bad things really were for us and the condition that we were in and all the many things that we got to fix in our lives. So we can see that cycle just back and forth.
And through the feast too.
Yes,
right?
the feast
With
too.
the Yom Kippur and Torah, Torah, Yom Kippur, and all the feasts, and how that always, even with, like Rabbi was saying about the rededication of the temple, the way we should look at it, Hanukkah coming very soon. The other thing that I connected there was at the end, in verse 23, it says that the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph, but forgot him. And I thought about how sometimes we are in our busyness of life, or maybe in our lack of vertical awareness, which is some of the things that Rabbi always teaches to be vertically aware, that we may neglect to give glory to the Father for the things that He's doing for us, right? And even with Yeshua, when he healed the 10 lepers, only one of them came back, right?
Yeah, yeah. You know, normally when things get rough or tough, then we always remember to go before the Father, take things to prayer. But when things are good, then we tend not to, or we get lackadaisical about it. The interesting part here with the cupbearer, you know, how could you forget what you just, you know, how could you forget about Joseph? That's always kind of baffled me, is how could you ever forget about Joseph, given what just happened? You'd gone to prison, you know, there's another one there with you, there's 2 dreams, there's this interpreter that, you know, and he interprets these dreams, and then you get lifted back up. The other one, you know, gets brought out as well. The one dies. I mean, that seems, you know, so it's an interesting concept, or an interesting verse, and the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph but forgotten about him. Sounds like a choice to me, but yeah. Anyways. Okay, Ashley?
Since we're talking about dreams, for verse 5, this is actually more Agnes's question. I was going through the Parsha Pearls with her on Sunday, and she asked me a question I couldn't answer, and it was, what's the difference between Joseph's dreams and someone that used to do, like, I want to word it better than how she said it, someone like a medium or a psychic?
Say that again. I didn't catch the last part.
What's the difference between someone like Joseph, a man of Yahweh? I mean, I get the fundamental difference, but to explain it to her, what's the difference between Joseph, a man of Yahweh, and a medium or like a psychic?
Motive and intent, mostly. Truthfully. Look at the motive and the reason behind what they're doing. You know, Joseph is not interpreting for his own gain. He's interpreting because these people are in need, and the Father gives him the vision. You know, the medium is, you know, first of all, normally it's a business. It's a lifting up of that individual. It's, you know, it's just their level of arrogance that a lot of times gets in their way. You know, look at Joseph's pure motives behind what he's doing, and then look at their motive, and you can see the difference. So everything that we do, look, none of us are perfect. All of us walk in error. But we have to take everything before the Father, weigh it out, try to figure out, why am I making this decision? What's going on in my life? What is going to be the outcome, and who's going to get damaged along the way? And as long as we take those things into account, I don't know if I can remember them. You'll have to go back and watch the live stream. No, but we just leaky vessel, Janet, leaky vessel. Once it comes out, I agree with Rabbi. When you know, you get up here and you start talking, I don't remember what I say. I have to go back and listen to it myself. Rabbi said last week, "Do you remember saying this and that?" It's like, no, I don't think I even said it. Did I really? You know, but so yeah, go back. But anyways, the point is, though, is, you know, we have to, motive and intent are so important, because we need to get that right before the Father, and then how we put it into action and how it affects others is the critical issue here. And that was, so that's the critical issue. So hopefully that helps.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
I'm in trouble.
Excellent. All right. I'm gonna help Ashley with a question. Okay, so remember, when you go to a medium, you're asking the medium something. The medium will then seek a dream, force the issue. Joseph was given a dream, didn't ask for it, didn't want it. Other people had dreams and came to him and told him about it. Asked him if he could understand it. He said that all interpretation comes from Elohim. But you go to a medium's not thinking about any of these things till you ask the question. Okay, so a medium's now going to seek an outside source to generate something falsely or forced. Okay? Joseph said, I had a dream. I don't know what it means, but I had a sheaf, and then you guys all had sheaves, and your sheaves bowed down to my sheaf. He wasn't seeking anything. And when others came to him for interpretation, he wasn't seeking anything. He wasn't even seeking for people to come to him. So Shane's answer was very good, but I think you needed a little bit more depth with that. Because I know where you're coming from exactly, okay? So hopefully that helped. And when you get to the end, don't forget we have chazak, chazak. Right? No, we have one more.
No,
we got one more, okay.
Thank you, Rabbi. Let's give him a round. Got to wake you guys up anyways. Okay, Tony.
Is anybody else? I got it. My mind went blank. Anybody else behind me?
Yeah, Justin.
I'll trade off.
You sure? All right. Well, I kind of just have a comment here of something that I see in verse 4, that something that stands out to me of how we should really apply in our life. And it says, and the captain of the guard put Joseph in charge of them, and he served them. It shows that when we're in leadership and in charge, we should be serving.
Yes.
That just really stood out to me.
Yes, and think about this. This is in confinement. Even he's serving,
Yes.
Most people, I'm sorry, throw you in confinement and you're going to be kicking and screaming and throwing a fit. You're going to be full of self-pity. Instead, he's in here serving from that position.
Correct.
That's incredible. Thank you. Okay, Tony.
Okay, I remembered now.
Excellent.
First thing, I was just wondering, is there any sort of significance, maybe even just symbolically, for the two that were thrown in, them being a cupbearer and a baker? Is there some sort of a significance to that?
Not that I'm aware of, honestly. I can't say as I've looked into that. So I'm unaware of anything specifically. Other than it was just positions that was before Pharaoh that served him specifically and directly, and I think that's the picture that they were trying to get across. But beyond that, I don't know of anything.
And then at the end of the portion where Joseph is forgotten, and he even put in a little plug for himself, but yet he gets forgotten. And then I think I might be skipping ahead just to next week's portion, but if you read on just the next couple of verses, it says it's like 2 years.
Yeah, that's right. I was thinking it was 2. Thank you.
And it's just, I mean, how many of us would, how many of us ask for stuff or seek stuff out, being quite certain that it should be, right, our motive and our intent is correct, and so on and so forth, but it doesn't happen, or at least not right away, or whatever, and what do we do then? Do we fall apart? Do we lose our effectiveness because we delve into pity and doubt and yada yada yada, or do we do what Joseph was doing, serving? I don't know. It makes me think. Something I kind of found out when I was in Iraq. There we were deployed, and all the harshness of being in a deployment and all that sort of stuff. And I found that one of the best ways to make the time go by, to take my mind off of whatever I felt was, uncomfortable, was to focus on my, battle buddies, my, those to my left and my right that I was either, just beside or responsible for, or even those that I was responsible to, but to focus on them and to try to serve them, try to do as best I could. And, when I wasn't filling my time with my own thoughts, but filling my time with thoughts of how to take care of them, all of a sudden I'd, wake up in the morning and realize, oh, wow, all the time that's went by. And, but anyway, I think that's a wonderful just example right there for a life lesson.
Yeah, he's definitely got a servant's heart. And, even, I say, I'll bring this up, Tony come here on Shabbat, never was asked or anything else, but after a month or two, he started standing in the hallway. He started opening the door. He's back there watching the back door to make sure nobody comes by. He's serving his battle buddies, and his battle buddies are us. So, yeah. What he did overseas, he also does here as well. And that's what we see in Joseph's life, is just that constant servant's heart. You got a question?
And just want to comment on what he said about not forgetting things that are asked of. I mean, how many times somebody asks us of something, and I know at times we actually forget to do certain things for certain people, but sometimes those people aren't going to come back and ask again, and they're going to just figure you ghosted them and didn't have enough care for their concern or their need, and so you're lost the possibility of developing a friendship, because that might have been very hurtful for them. So I think in serving and building a community, if somebody asks, then we should do our utmost not to serve the person, but to show Abba we care for a fellow congregant, that we're going to do our best to take care of the need that was asked of.
Yeah, I agree. Excellent. No, I have to give kudos to some of the blues. I know the rabbi likes to say that otherwise, but guess what? Blues like to make spreadsheets and keep a list, and not all blues, but many. And guess what? We make on average 38,000 decisions a day. If we don't start writing them down, we're going to forget some of those, I guarantee you. And it is going to affect people and hurt people and so on and so forth. So that's why, blues and reds maybe drive each other crazy, but they also help each other, because the blue can keep track of what the red's forgetting about. So, hey. They'll come out and disagree with me, but it's okay. I'll take it. I'll take the correction. Okay, live stream.
Question for 40, but there's no verse. Does the baker and the cupbearer reflect whatsoever on the wine and bread blessings?
Interesting concept. I don't think there's anything in Scripture that's coincidence. It's all put there for a reason. I can see a connection there, which is good. I like that. But to say for sure, I can't. But definitely, I like the thought.
This is a late one from Rocky, and it's what set Joseph apart from all set apart brothers, Genesis 30-something. It's Rocky.
Love you, Rocky. Genesis 30-something. Repeat that.
What set Joseph apart from all set apart brothers?
I don't know that he's set apart from all set apart brothers. Definitely he has a lot of unique traits and characteristics that I think the Father really desires in all of us. So maybe definitely some more than others, but we can't say that he's the favorite by any means across the board, but definitely ranks right up there. And with the pictures and ideas that, the foreshadowing of things of Yeshua, we can definitely see that connection as well.
That is all for chapter 40.
All for 40. Any other thoughts on 40? Okay, and earlier I talked about the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph but forgot him. And I was kind of giving him grief, but when we look at Yeshua and what he did for us, and the gifts that he did for us, like the picture of Joseph here did for the cupbearer, and how often do we get caught up in our day-to-day and we forget about him? Or we get sidetracked and we don't focus on the things. So, after I said that, I'm sitting here reading that saying, I need to go back and revisit that, because we're very much capable of having these same failures in our lives as what the cupbearer did as well. So praise Abba that he's a generous, forgiving Elohim that will help us, right our wrongs. So, amen. Okay, I think that about does it. Any other thoughts or questions before we close out? No? Okay, well, if you guys want to come up here. Oh, actually, we need a closing prayer. Sorry about that. Who would like to pray for us to close us out? Justin?
Avinu Makenu, our Father, our King, we just thank you and praise you tonight, Father, for this wonderful portion, for all that you've given us, for our leadership that takes the time to teach us, to show us and guide us and direct us. We thank you for your great counsel that you give, that you can show us every day how to walk in your ways. We just thank you and praise you. In the name of Yeshua HaMashiach. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Okay, if you guys want to come up here, we will wave goodbye to all those on live stream, and I'm not sure I haven't heard. Probably. Come on up, guys. Come on. Okay, so we're going to count to 3, and on 3, we will do Laila Tov, Shavua Tov, and we love you. So, everybody ready? 1, 2, 3.